That's right, you're alive, baby, and we've got work to do. I'm Dave Rubin. This is the Rubin Report. It's May 15th, 2024. We are live streaming, as always, on Rumble, on Locals, and on YouTube. Subscribe, tap the notification bell if you have not. And you know that some of our Locals members did get to find out where I was the last 2 days. Many of you have noticed that I was not here. We pre-taped some stuff because I was in Tequila, Mexico. Yes, that's right. Tequila is a real place, and I went with a couple of the guys. As some of you know, I have been working on our own tequila. This will be the Dave Rubin Tequila. That's not the name of the brand. That is to be announced soon enough. But we finalized the recipe. We've been working with these guys for a long time, tweaking little things here and there. I think we got a little 10-second video of what we were doing over there. That's just a quick little bite, 10 seconds. We were out in the agave fields. We're using 100% pure blue agave. We fiddled with the recipe a little bit. You guys know I am a tequila connoisseur. We are making something that is clean and beautiful. And Connor, come on. Yeah, Connor nodded. It tastes absolutely delicious. We have the first 12 bottles here at the house right now, which I'm going to share with the team and maybe some friends and family. And I'm hoping we can launch in September. So anyway, that's where we were. And let's get to it because I'm treating this as a Monday show since it's my first show of the week. And really the theme today is hold the line, guys. There are some good signs. There really are. I know it feels crazy out there. I know the lunatics are screaming and all the bad forces aren't going anywhere. But we are seeing major pushback. We're going to show you some stuff from up in Canada, where my good friend Jordan Peterson has just about had it with Justin Trudeau, and he's dropping some F-bombs accordingly. We are seeing massive crowds show up at Trump rallies and really nobody showing up for Biden. Even just think about it this way. In your own life right now, do you know anyone that is a really proud Democrat Joe Biden supporter? I don't think I know anyone. I know a couple people that might end up voting Democrat, might end up voting Biden, but nobody is excited by this. Everyone sees him breaking down. Everyone sees the policies that are bad. Yes, the machine will keep running cover for him, but people are seeing through that. Of course, then the question really is if he breaks down or if they get rid of Joe Biden before July, when the convention is, what trickery do they have in their hands? So we're going to talk about a whole bunch of stuff, and I think that you will feel good at the end of today's program. Let's start with Jordan Peterson, because one of the thing that really put Jordan Peterson on the map, he had a 3-decade, probably 4-decade career as a clinical psychologist in Canada and as a professor at Harvard and University of Toronto and other universities. And then there was Bill C-16 up in Canada. This is about now 8 years ago when I first found out about Jordan Peterson, because everybody online was like, there's this Canadian professor and he's really upset about this bill that could punish people if they use the wrong gender pronoun. Meaning if you're walking down the street and you say, "Hello, sir," and it turns out to be a woman, you could be fined and or put in jail. And Jordan was the first one really talking about this thing. And people said he was crazy, it'll never happen. Now flash forward 8 years to where we are in 2024, and we now know that there are huge problems as it relates to free speech, and especially what's going on in Canada with Trudeau and silencing of the truckers and closing down bank accounts and everything else. Anyway, Jordan went on the Pints with Aquina podcast, a show that I've been on, hosted by Matt Fradd. And Matt asked him how he feels about Justin Trudeau.
By the time everything exploded around me in 2016, I had like 200 hours of lectures online, which really saved me, right? Because people came after me when I opposed idiot Trudeau's idiot legislation. You have to use pronouns. It's like, F you, buddy. Yeah. Seriously. You try to get control of my tongue and see what the hell happens. So I knew what that meant. Anyways, I got pilloried for that, for my meanness, even though I could see what happened. I told that bloody Senate in Canada in 2016 that they were going to produce a psychological epidemic among young women. I knew that.
Yeah, he knew it. He called it. A whole bunch of us started talking about it. We were all, let's say, not treated the best by the media and everything else. But that really, looking back now, 8 years ago, that is what lit fire under the movement that Jordan Peterson, I would say now, is the leader of people cleaning up their room and standing up straight with their shoulders back and taking a little control of their own life and not waiting for someone to do it for them. The reason I want to show you that clip specifically was every now and again, Jordan shows his teeth, right? Every now and again, you can push him far enough where he will drop an F-bomb. And Canada right now, it is worthy of many more people in Canada dropping F-bombs when it comes to Justin Trudeau, because he has been one of the most, if not the most authoritarian leader in the West. He is working on legislation right now to make online people such as me, I'm not a Canadian, but the online version of me, let's say in Canada, have to register with the Canadian government. There is an absolute onslaught on top of everything he did with the truckers and the bank accounts and everything else. Here's Jordan going a bit further on Trudeau's record itself.
I'm totally out of touch with Canadian politics, so what's going on there? Oh. Someone told me to ask you that. They said they like when you talk about your friend Trudeau.
Well, that Canada's in the state you get in when you elect Peter Pan to be your leader. He's, I think he's an incompetent narcissist. I think every single word that Justin Trudeau says is a lie. I think every single gesture he makes is a lie. It's all performative. He was a drama teacher, part-time drama teacher. He was completely and utterly unqualified for the job. It's 2015. It's time for half of the people to be women. That's the level of thinking he's capable of. And he's scuttled the Canadian economy. We're about as productive now as Mississippi. Right, we were at parity 10 years ago with the U.S. Our housing is twice as expensive. We have far more immigrants entering the country than you do with your open southern border, right? We're slated to have the worst performing economy in the developing world for the next 30 years. He's scuttling the energy industry. He refused to deliver natural gas to the Germans and to the Japanese when they came cap in hand asking.
Okay, so that's a little more analysis than just FU. Trudeau has done unbelievable, possibly irreparable damage to Canada, and he continues to do that, right? Again, the bank account thing, of all of the things, Jordan didn't even mention it there, but shutting down the bank accounts of those truckers who were just protesting so that they could go to work and feed their family, that was a test that was run throughout the West to see what could we do? What could we do if you stand up against these authoritarian governments? And the test largely worked. They're being sued right now. There's a whole bunch of the truckers that are suing the government. There's all sorts of lawsuits as it relates to that. But the real point that Jordan is making there is that Justin Trudeau was not qualified. He was a drama teacher. And of course, the line that I often quote with Jordan on this, that Trudeau lies about everything about him. It's very similar to Gavin Newsom. Every single thing that he says is a lie. It's all performative. The movements, everything about him, it is a lie. He is an avatar that is here to push in authoritarian evil under the guise of progressive goodness. Every now and again, though, up in Canada, an actual reporter gets in Trudeau's face, and it usually does not end up that well for him. Take a look at this.
Prime Minister, I want to ask you about leadership. Polls have put you 20 points behind the Conservatives, and it doesn't seem to be getting better despite your recent communications push from your budget. The public appears to have an overwhelmingly negative view of you personally, and you seem to have lost control of the conversation on some of the key issues that Canadians care about. I think the public might be looking at you and your position right now and thinking, for the good of the Liberal Party, why is he staying on?
Thank you for your concern, Laura. But as you see, we're here investing in good jobs for today and for generations to come. The world is in a challenging place, absolutely. But that's why for 8 years this government has been putting forward investments and a frame that both fights climate change and creates good jobs and economic growth, building a better future for Canadians, bringing in fairness for every generation. That's what I am 100% focused on right now. Merci.
So when Jordan says that every single word is a lie, that was a beautiful example of it. First off, the smugness, the condescension, the smoothness and how he goes right into politics mode, right? She laid out a fairly, let's say, condemning position on his policies. And he gets up there and it's not a real person that responds. He goes into campaign mode. What is in the script? What can I say, right? What can I say? Somehow this has something to do with climate change. Yeah, you know, as you've gone on your climate change campaign, which is completely fraudulent and everything else, you've cut Western Canada off. Ask the people in Calgary how they feel about some of your policies as they no longer are exporting oil that they could, and you've wrecked Western Canada's economy, right? Then he's going to usher in fairness or something. What are you talking about? Everyone hates you, and they don't hate you enough. But check this out. Here's Justin Trudeau's half-brother. His name is Kyle Kemper. He is a big fan of Robert F. Kennedy, as you'll see on his his lapel pin in just a moment. He was on Tucker Carlson's show talking about his half-brother, Justin Trudeau.
And it's just really sad, like, you know, that's not a way to live. You know, when I'm out here fighting for freedom and, like, you know, speaking for freedom and liberty, well, Justin is not a free man. Like, you know, he has, you know, they just showed him trying to go to an event, I don't know, a couple of days ago, and there were probably like 50 cops, like, you know, as his escort, because Canadians are pissed off. It's angry out there, folks. It's not a good look. You can't drive a car. Like, he can't go to a restaurant. Like, well, you make a big sacrifice when you enter into that public arena. And, you know, and he has entered that public arena. In the beginning, it was all kind of sunshine and rainbows. But now it's dark and there's a lot of negative energy. And to all the people that really are putting that negative energy on Justin, just recognize, like, you know, Justin's like the captain of the hockey team. He's not the manager of it. He's not the owner of it.
Who do you think the owner is?
Who do you think the owner is?
I don't know.
You have a pretty good idea.
I mean, I personally think there's a spiritual component to all of this. So there's maybe the supreme leader of it, but I assume business interests are
business interest. Yeah, I use the word the corporatocracy.
Yeah,
like, you know, their profits, you know, come from, like, you know, look at the pharmaceutical industry, like, and the profits reaped out of, you know, the COVID scenario. You know, it's just one example. Or the military industrial complex and the money and the profits reaped out of war. And, you know, you can.
But Canada's gotten.
Okay, I'm not telling you that Justin Trudeau's half-brother is some sort of wizard, although if he ages and gets a little gray, he will look like a wizard. But what I am showing you there is that at the end there, they're onto something. Like, Justin Trudeau, someone who is so inauthentic, right? He's so deeply inauthentic, a drama teacher who has done so much damage to his country. Who do you believe when it comes to what's going on in Canada? Do you believe Jordan Peterson or do you believe Justin Trudeau, right? Most people at this point believe Jordan Peterson. Ask the average Canadian. They see what's happening to their country on multiple fronts. So at the end there, when he's saying the line about, well, he's the captain of the hockey team, but that's not really who runs the hockey team. It's like, who is Justin Trudeau serving as he destroys the economy of Canada, as he allows illegals to come into Canada, as he pushes for bills that will silence dissent in Canada? Who is he serving? Now, that question remains to be answered. I think we have our own version of that here as we watch the Democrats and the Biden administration do that. But that is the question. And now, after we talk about American financing in just a sec, we'll relate that to exactly what's happening with our fraudulent leader right here. But let's talk about American financing real quick. Guys, everyone thinks mortgage rates are extremely high, but that's not entirely true. Mortgage rates are much lower than the average credit card rate of 22%. Think about how much interest you're going to pay on that credit card if you're only paying the minimum payment every month. If you're a homeowner with a cash out refinance, American financing can help you pay off that debt and lower your monthly expenses. And the mortgage interest is tax deductible. They are saving homeowners just like you an average of $854 a month. Their salary-based mortgage consultants will show you how much you can save every month with no upfront fees and no obligation. You may even close in as fast as 10 days and possibly delay 2 mortgage payments, giving you greater savings up front. Get the financial relief you need and stop living paycheck to paycheck. Call American Financing today, 866-890-9392. That's 866-890-9392. Or visit AmericanFinancing.net/Rubin. And now back to me. All right, so let's take a fraudulent authoritarian leader up north, Justin Trudeau, and let's contrast him with a fraudulent authoritarian leader right here in the United States. And yes, I am talking about the elderly man with dementia who's pretending to be President Joe Biden. Let's flash back to an oldie but a goodie, one of Joe Biden's greatest hits, when he was in the midst of shutting down the country, making sure you couldn't visit your grandma in the hospital, getting kids out of school, potentially killing an awful lot of people by just locking them in and leaving them anxious and nervous and everything else. Oh, and also forcing them to be injected with something that turned out not to be a vaccine at all.
Highly contagious Delta variant that I began to warn America about back in July spread late summer like it did in other countries before us. While the vaccines provide strong protection for the vaccinated, we read about and hear about and we see the stories of hospitalized people on their deathbeds among the unvaccinated over the past few weeks. This is a pandemic of the unvaccinated. And it's caused by the fact that despite America having unprecedented and successful vaccination program, despite the fact that for almost 5 months, free vaccines have been available in 80,000 different locations, we still have nearly 80 million Americans who have failed to get the shot. And to make matters worse, there are elected officials actively working to undermine the fight against COVID-19. Instead of encouraging people to get vaccinated and mask up, they're ordering mobile morgues for the unvaccinated dying from COVID in their communities. This is totally unacceptable. The unvaccinated overcrowd our hospitals, are overrunning emergency rooms and intensive care units, leaving no room for someone with a heart attack. We cannot allow these actions to stand in the way of protecting the large majority of Americans who have done their part and want to get back to life as normal.
All right, I know you guys have seen all that sort of stuff before, but I think it's worth showing again to the backdrop of what Jordan Peterson said about Justin Trudeau. Every single thing that he says is a lie. And I think we've basically entered that territory with Joe Biden. Look, that was about 2.5 years ago or so. Everything that he said there, now we know was a lie, right? The vaccine didn't work. Masks didn't work. The guilt that he's throwing on the 80 million people who were just like a little skeptical, who now are looking pretty damn good, like everyone in this studio, right? Why is it? Are we all so freaking brilliant? I guess so, guys. I guess we're so damn brilliant, right? And he's blaming politicians who are against mandates and everything else. And you can see he just doesn't even know what he's saying there. By the way, you can also see the degradation in his mind in the 2.5 years since then, because he's not slurring every word. Now he basically slurs every single word that he says. But he lies also about everything. We showed you this video last week in an interview that he did, lying about the inflation rate, and we'll debunk it in real time. Take a look real quick.
No president's had the run we've had in terms of creating jobs and bringing down inflation. It was 9% when I came to office. 9%. But look, people have a right to be concerned.
Inflation was not 9% when he took office, okay? Everyone knows that. We've got an image here, or a tweet here from Greg Price, who's an actual journalist who I trust. Joe Biden has now twice in 1 week claimed that inflation was at 9% when he took office. It's a particularly hilarious lie because inflation was 1.4% when he took office and hit a high of 9.1 in June of 2022. That was the largest increase over 12 months since 1981. So yes, he lies about everything. And CNN, which is where that interview aired, is not a place of journalism. So it would have been very simple. Keep in mind, these are very prepackaged interviews, right? Many of you saw my interview with Sage Steele, and when she interviewed Joe Biden for ESPN a couple years ago, how every single word had to be confirmed. It was double checked by the administration and by the higher ups and everything else. She wasn't allowed to ask follow-up questions and everything. So CNN doesn't air these things live. So why is it that Erin Burnett, after the interview even, when they aired the interview, right, because it's not live, why isn't it that CNN would have been like, and by the way, we checked the numbers on this, and no, that was a complete lie or confusion. by the president. It was actually 1.4% when he came in office. And of course, you guys know the answer to that. They are running cover for him. Why would they be running cover for him? Well, because the woman who is vice president, who would have to take over, God help us all, if something happened to Joe Biden, a broken hip or whatever else, is Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris, who of course was polling at 0 to 1% in her own party when he selected her as vice president and said he was only doing it because she's a black woman. Well, she's hanging around here. And the Daily Caller had a little fun here with a video from Kamala over the weekend.
We have to know that sometimes people will open the door for you and leave it open. Sometimes they won't. And then you need to kick that door down. Excuse my language.
That's the Daily Caller having a little fun right there. For those of you listening on the audio podcast, we had SWAT teams kicking down a door of most likely someone who did absolutely nothing. But the way, just everything about her, the fake laughter and everything else, this whole administration is staffed with a bunch of people that someone at Casting 101 should be fired. Why couldn't you just, if you were going to fake the whole thing, right? If this whole thing is kayfabe, right? Kayfabe is WWE wrestling, right? Like when there's a storyline. Andre the Giant really hates Hulk Hogan. How am I doing on current references? That was pretty good. All right. And then what happens? Oh my God, Jake the Snake and Ravishing Rick Rude. He's banging his wife and the snake and the whole, you get it. It's all kayfabe. It's this script. Well, the people that they're putting in front of us, Kamala, it's like, why did they choose this? It's like the script, it seems to me the simulation is breaking down right in front of our eyes. And if you want real evidence of that, here is Anthony Blinken, our Secretary of State. Now, there are multiple wars in the world right now. There are some big problems in the world right now. Anthony Blinken went over to Ukraine to a nightclub, because they've still got nightclubs in the midst of this war that we're funding, although we haven't declared war, we're just funding the war. And here he is playing guitar and singing a little diddly. There's something about the microphone not really even picking up his voice that is like a perfect metaphor for what's going on with this whole thing. Can you imagine being in a Ukrainian nightclub? Like, my aunt and uncle are dead. My whole family's displaced. Here's Anthony Blinken, everybody. It's insane what is going on. Who advised him to do that? Or are they all just LARPing, right? They're all just live action role playing. He's like, I'm not really a Secretary of State. I'm not qualified to do anything. Can I play guitar in a Ukrainian nightclub? Let's see how that goes. But across the board, the Democrats have selected an incredible group of people who are not qualified to do their jobs, who have no problem lying, who create problems and then blame it on someone else, and then who come up with solutions to problems that make everything worse. Let's go to New York City for a moment. Mayor Eric Adams over there. And remember, Eric Adams replaced Bill de Blasio. Bill de Blasio destroyed New York City. He was a communist and just a genuinely awful person who destroyed the #1 city in the world. And then they brought in Eric Adams, and people thought, much like they thought about Joe Biden, oh, he's not a lunatic, crazy, lefty progressive. He's a little bit more of a centrist Democrat. It'll be better. And then, of course, what that really does is it just ushers in the lunacy faster, because lefties never know when to say stop to other lefties. So get this, they created a sanctuary state in New York, a sanctuary city in New York City. Now the city is just collapsing under the weight of all of these social services that are being sucked away. There aren't enough taxpayers. People are moving out of New York State. Crime is going crazy. You know all the stuff. Well, here's Eric Adams' brilliant idea to deal with New York City's lifeguard shortage.
Plan that states those jobs that we are in high demand, we could expedite. How do we have a large body of people that are in our city and country that are excellent swimmers, and at the same time we need lifeguards? And the only obstacle is that we won't give them the right to work to become a lifeguard.
Did you catch that? Apparently, and I think it sounds sort of racist, I think, apparently these people are swimming here from other places, so they must know how to swim, so let's make them lifeguards. It's all completely, and he says that with a straight face. And the two people sitting next to him, they're just nodding along. And, well, that does seem like a good idea. I don't know. Are they jihadists? How about a jihadist lifeguard? That doesn't seem great to me. But New York, good luck with all of that. You guys have done this to yourself. And another place that has done it to itself, of course, is California. I saw this over the weekend. And this is when Jordan talks about Justin Trudeau being unable to utter a single word of truth, right? I put Gavin Newsom in that category as well. I put Biden there. Biden is just reading, right? Nothing's coming out of Biden's brain at this point. Gavin Newsom, I put there in that Justin Trudeau, very small sliver of people who also just cannot utter anything true. So this is just so great. Just notice everything about him, the body language, the evil smile, all of it. He is a snake and a lizard person, and most likely will replace Biden by the convention. But here he is being asked about how California went from such a surplus to a horrific crushing debt on his watch.
Can we explain to Californians how we moved from a $100 billion surplus to such a significant deficit in just a matter of a few years?
Well, it's, we can explain it. $349 billion of unprecedented capital gains, 11.6%, when traditional capital gains is around 5.18% on average. It's almost double. So you had massive volatility. You have requirements under Prop 2, the GAN. You have requirements under Prop 98, which require that set aside. We use 93% of our surplus, which is, I want to be careful, either on the higher end or without precedent for one-time purposes. So we anticipated, because we didn't want that surplus to go to ongoing commitments, we anticipated that shortfall. What we didn't anticipate is these rain bombs in December, January, February, and March, these atmospheric rivers that led to a federal declaration that led to FEMA and the IRS moving in a direction where we couldn't collect our taxes until
I don't even know what to say. I don't know what everything, the body language, the fake smile, the words, he's just saying words. None of it means anything. First off, if you're having some issue with capital gains and tax rates and things, it's because so many rich people have left your state. That's all the analysis that I need to do on that. But then did you catch what he said there? The reason that they went from having billions in surplus to billions in deficit has something to do with rain bombs and atmospheric rivers. Have any of you heard of atmospheric rivers before? He's just saying crazy shit. They're like, how did you blow all this cash? Rain bombs and atmospheric rivers. It's all a lie, and they are here to destroy everything. And then, you know what happens? What happens then, in a way, the crazier they get, atmospheric rivers, the more bullshit that they throw at us. Then suddenly what happens is good people start waking up. One of the, probably the main guy who has woken up or let's say the most important person who has woken up over the last couple of years, of course, is Elon Musk. And here he is destroying several of California's policies that, of course, have been put in place by that man, the devil incarnate himself, Gavin Newsom.
If year after year there are more laws and regulations passed and more regulatory bodies created, eventually everything will be illegal. And that's why you see the California high-speed rail has made a tiny section that doesn't even have rail on it, for, I don't know, several $1 billion. Because everything's, at this point, California has made almost everything illegal. So you can't make progress. Most poignant example that I can think of that happened this week was the sad picture of the California high-speed rail, which is, it's just billions of dollars spent for practically nothing. But it'll only get worse year after year. So we must have a regulatory sort of clearinghouse, garbage collection process. This is essential, or civilization comes grinding to a halt.
Okay. So in California, they've spent billions and billions of dollars regulating the high hell out of everybody and taking taxes and all of that stuff and state income tax and everything. But they've spent billions and millions of dollars trying to build high-speed rail. They were trying to get us from LA to wine country, and that would have been nice. And they haven't laid a single track. You know what happened here in Florida? It took us about 4 or 5 years. We built the Bright Line. It took $5 billion. And you can now get from Miami to Orlando, and soon enough, they're working on it right now, you'll be able to get from Orlando to Tampa, and then you'll be able to go down, and then they will bisect the southern state, and you will be able to get virtually everywhere in Florida, and we'll do it in a couple of years, and we'll do it effectively, and we do that without state income tax. Isn't that something else? But in essence, what Elon is saying is the more you regulate, the more you control, which is exactly what this guy does, the more you crush the human spirit. And that, again, is why Gavin Newsom is the #1 U-Haul salesman of all time, because 1.3 roughly million people in the last 3 or so years have left California and they've moved to greener pastures, whether it's here in Florida or Texas or Tennessee or elsewhere. We're going to talk a bit about how they will continue to try to trick you and make you think that Donald Trump is the bad guy as they're destroying the entire country. We'll do that in just a second, but I'm going to throw to a video ad right now. I think it's the first time we've done one of these. This is a little something for one country.
You're probably wondering who we are. I'm Patrick, and that's Chase, and this is our next giveaway.
We're giving away this 3-bedroom, 2.5 bath in the heart of the Ozark National Forest. You can win this cabin or $1 million cash.
Go to onecountry.com today, sign up.
Today, sign up?
Or sign up tomorrow.
Sign up today or tomorrow. No, you want to sign up right now.
Wouldn't mind living in that cabin. Guys, go to onecountry.com/Rubin to get 300 bonus entries. Okay, so let's shift over to what's going on here as it relates to the other side of the aisle, right? So what have we done so far? We've basically just, whether it's in Canada or in America, we're taking out the lefties and their BS. All right, that's usually pretty easy stuff. But of course, what's happening here in America right now is it does seem like there is some momentum behind Donald Trump, and people are seeing that Biden is just breaking down, and they're also seeing what's happening in their own pocketbooks and at the border and everything else. So the machine has to bring out some of the old all-stars, right? It's like old timers day, and it makes you think about somebody who's just way past their prime. But you remember, it's a member berry from South Park. And look at me making a South Park reference. That was pretty good. So the machine is trotting out Hillary Clinton right now because she wants to scare the high hell out of you that if Donald Trump becomes president, well, something like fascism, Hitler, buzzword, 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 buzzword.
Think about the kind of future you want, what kind of country you want to live in, whether you value freedom or whether you want to give it up to people who want to change the way that America has tried to work and our values that we've tried to aspire to and fulfill. And, you know, when people ask me about the Biden-Trump race, my answer is very clear. We have two old candidates. One is, yes, old and effective, has passed legislation that I think is going to put America on such a strong footing for the future, is compassionate, cares about people, tries hard to make the right decision, and they are complicated. The other is old and dangerous. I mean, why is that a hard choice for people? The world has been here before. People did not take the kind of threats that we saw in the 1930s as seriously as they should, including American journalists. You know, people were taking at face value that, oh, this can be controlled. He may have said some outrageous things, but, you know, the institutions will hold. A determined demagogue, unfortunately supported by members of his political party, other enablers, people who care more about a future tax cut than the sanctity of the Constitution, are falling in line behind him. Someone who says these things, you know, maybe he wouldn't jail all of his political opponents. One is one too many. Maybe he wouldn't try to force out of business the members of the press who didn't agree with him. One is one too many. We go down the line. And maybe this would be our last election, because someone who will not accept the validity of an election is someone who doesn't believe in elections.
Lady, you tweeted out that Donald Trump was an illegitimate president. It was you people and Barack Obama who were illegally spying on the Donald Trump campaign first time around. It's you and your party and the machine behind you that is trying to jail him right now. You are literally trying to do it right now. Again, it's just the mirror. It's just the mirror. Get a mirror, look in a mirror, You don't want to look too far in that abyss because you might not be happy with what you see, but you guys are the bad guys. That's the thing. And Joe Scarborough just sits there. I'm a very serious person. I'm going to sit here like this while this woman warns me about the jailing that we're trying to do. And, they're going to jail journalists. It's like, who has been colluding for the last couple years with big tech to silence journalists? You people, not you guys watching this, you Democrats. Anyway, Chris Rufo, who's just one of the best of the best. And actually, if you watched our show on Monday, it was an event that I did with Chris Rufo at Ralston College. He's, of course, from the Manhattan Institute, and he's really been the leading driver of demolishing DEI as it comes to all of our institutions and working with DeSantis right here in Florida to really eliminate it altogether. He wrote something interesting as it pertains to some of the tactics they've been using on all of us. He wrote, "It's not 2020 anymore. Smearing and doxing has lost its power. The right no longer accepts the premise. If anything, it has become a status marker. The regime only goes after the significant. And with each failed attempt, the threat becomes weaker, the opposition stronger." So you guys are seeing more and more of this, right? I show you clips all the time now of people who you wouldn't think of as Trump supporters suddenly saying nice things about Trump, rappers suddenly saying nice things about Trump, athletes suddenly saying nice things about Trump, people that are suddenly like, wow, the Democrats are so awful. Maybe I'm not fully going to get there on Trump, but I'm willing to traverse that unknown territory, right? I'm willing to look a little bit outside the box. And people are realizing that the cancellation machine is not working the way it was before. Now, interestingly, we had the F1 race here in Miami about a week or so ago, and McLaren had an event and at their garage, well, look who showed up. It was, yes, it's the orange man himself, Donald Trump. And then, of course, a whole bunch of pushback, right? Suddenly, everybody was going after McLaren. Oh, my God, McLaren is supporting Trump, and we have to cancel McLaren and everything else. And look at the statement by McLaren, because this stuff is not working anymore. McLaren is a non-political organization. However, we recognize and respect the office of the President of the United States. So when the request was made to visit our garage on race day, we accepted alongside the president of the FIA and the CEOs of Liberty Media and Formula One. We were honored that McLaren Racing was chosen as the representative of F1, which gave us the opportunity to showcase the world-class engineering that we bring to motorsport. That is the point, guys. They didn't endlessly lavish praise on Trump right there, but they said, we respect the office of the presidency. They didn't throw him under the bus. They didn't apologize or anything else. And that's what more and more of us need to do. If I can quote Jordan Peterson again, only apologize if you actually have something to apologize for. All of these people that want to keep you on your knees, they want to keep you there forever, right? Occasionally you start getting up and they will push you back down. That's what they will do if you offer an apology when you should not apologize. By the way, all of their policies are the policies that are destroying everything. Check out this headline from The Economist. This is absolutely wild. Gangs are gaining ground in Latin America. This is why iron fist policies won't beat them back. Now, that was fact-checked by Community Notes on Twitter, because they're basically going after El Salvador there. We talked a bunch about El Salvador and their president, Bukele, who has just completely cleaned up the country. The fact-check says, El Salvador's iron fist gang crackdowns led to murders dropping by 70% in 2023. And Bukele actually retweeted that, and he wrote this. There was a 70% drop in 2023. However, since the approval of the exception regime, there has been an 86% drop. And since we entered the government in 2019, the drop has reached 95%. We project a 97% drop for 2024. So the reason I'm showing you that as it relates to all of this is there are good people who do good things. Bukele is one of them doing this in El Salvador. He took the country with the highest rate of murder in the world, in any sort of recorded country. And he has now precipitously dropped it about 90%. That is good. And then The Economist, mainstream media, wants to frame it that he's bad or somehow that policies that lead to less crime are not good. And then, of course, at the same time, they will laud the people that will usher in all of the crime, say the Eric Adams or all of the open borders people or everything else. But it's not just crime that the mainstream media will crush people on. Check this out. This is absolutely spectacular. This is from the Daily Mail. I want to read the headline first and then the retweet by J.K. Rowling. Daily Mail Online wrote, J.K. Rowling is accused of cruelty as she mocks transgender football manager by comparing her to a straight white middle-aged bloke. And of course, there's the beautiful man or woman right there. And JK retweeted it and wrote, I didn't compare him to one. He is one. And right, what you're looking at there is a man pretending to be a woman. He is a middle-aged bloke. I don't know if he's straight, but he is a white middle-aged man pretending to be a woman. And JK, the point of this, guys, is that JK is not apologizing. McLaren is not apologizing. Bukele is not apologizing. And the more that just the good ones of us, I don't know if Bukele and J.K. Rowling agree on a lot of stuff, but they agree on do not bow and do not apologize in instances where it is not deserved. So I've shown you a bunch of anecdotal evidence about all of this, but I'm going to show you some empirical evidence in just a second. But let me talk to you guys about Fast Growing Trees. Guys, did you know that Fast Growing Trees is the biggest online nursery in the U.S. with more than 10,000 different kinds of plants and over 2 million happy customers? They have everything you could possibly want, like fruit trees, palm trees, evergreens, houseplants, and so much more. Whatever you're interested in, they have it for you. Find the perfect fit for your climate and space. Fast Growing Trees makes it easy to order online, and your plants are shipped directly to your door in 1 to 2 days. And along with their 30-day Alive and Thrive guarantee, they offer free plant consultation forever. Guys, you know I'm into greenery and building gardens, and I guarantee you these guys are the best for that. The experts at Fast Growing Trees curate thousands of plants so you can find the perfect fit for your specific climate, location, and needs. You don't have to drive around to big nurseries and gardening centers. Whether you're looking for some privacy, shade, or natural beauty for your yard, Fast Growing Trees has in-house experts ready to help you make the right selection with growing and care advice available 24/7. This spring, they have the best deals online, up to half off on select plants and other deals. And listeners of our show get an additional 15% off their first purchase when using code Rubin at checkout. That's an additional 15% off at fastgrowingtrees.com using the code Rubin at checkout. Fastgrowingtrees.com, code Rubin. Offer is valid for a limited time. Terms and conditions may apply. And now back to me. Okay, so we've given you some anecdotal stuff, right? You know, here's some people pushing back, and that's all good. But is it waking up people? The more that we expose the nonsense, the more that people don't apologize for standing up, for doing what's right, does it start actually changing things? Well, I want to throw back to that tweet that I just read you a moment ago from Chris Rufo, because it's a good framing for this. It's not 2020 anymore. Smearing and doxing has lost its power. The right no longer accepts the premise. If anything, it has become a status marker. The regime only goes after the significant, and with each failed attempt, the threat becomes weaker, the opposition stronger. So now check this out. This is from CNN, and Fareed Zakaria, who for some reason is liked by a lot of, say, centrist people. He's one of these people that's been on air for years, gets almost everything wrong. But here he is begrudgingly laying out some really, really bad news for the Democrats. I mean, in essence, he is a Democrat on CNN, now going, oh shit, Democrats, we got a problem on our hands.
Here's my take. When President Biden made clear he was going to run for re-election, I had a sense of what his election strategy was and thought it was an intelligent path to victory. After the chaos of COVID and Trump, Joe Biden would stand for normalcy and a rising tide of good economic news. Donald Trump would divide Republicans, with significant chunks of the party wishing that someone like Nikki Haley or Ron DeSantis would be their nominee. Meanwhile, Trump would unite and motivate Democrats, allowing President Biden to focus on the votes of independents and swing states who threw the Electoral College to Trump in 2016 and to Biden in 2020. I have to admit, none of this is playing out as I thought it would. Trump is now leading in almost all the swing states, but behind those numbers lie even more troubling details. As someone worried about the prospects of a second Trump term, I think it's best to be honest about reality. I understand that polls are not always accurate, but in general, they have tended to underestimate Donald Trump's support, not overestimate it. I doubt that there are many shy Biden voters in the country. The shift here is stark. On the question of who voters trust more to deal with the economy, Trump has a 22-point lead over Biden, according to an NBC poll from January. This marks a 15-point bump for Trump compared to the same poll in 2020.
Okay, so the reason I want to show you that is because here's a guy, he's basically saying, I'm worried about this. This isn't what I expected. This isn't what I want. He's telling you, I'm a Democrat activist who pretends to be a journalist on CNN every week, and I'm worried about what I see. Things are not going the way I predicted. And it's because, of course, of all of the things that we talk about on the show all the time, whether it's the economy or it's the border or it's now what people are seeing is wrong with Joe Biden's brain. Here's a little bit more from Fareed on the bad news for the Democrats.
On the other great cultural issue, immigration, Biden is 35 points behind Trump as to who would handle it better. And I do wonder whether abortion will be as large an issue in a presidential race, given that reversing Roe v. Wade threw the issue to state governments and legislatures and not the federal government. Perhaps the most worrying new trend for the Democrats is that far from being the more unified party, they are now bitterly divided over the war in Gaza. Bernie Sanders has said the eruption of pro-Palestinian protests could be Biden's Vietnam. Meanwhile, Republicans seem to be uniting behind Trump. Whatever opposition he faced in the primaries has largely melted away. And the trials against him keep him in the spotlight, infuriate his base, who sees him as a martyr, and even may serve to make him the object of some sympathy among people in general who believe that his prosecutors are politically motivated. This happens to be true, in my opinion. I doubt the New York indictment would have been brought against a defendant whose name was not Donald Trump. A majority of Americans are skeptical that Trump will be able to get a fair trial, according to a CNN poll. And I haven't even mentioned Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and Cornel West and Jill Stein, all of whom would probably take votes away from Biden. The one that troubles me the most is on the question of who was the more competent. Joe Biden led Donald Trump by 9 points in 2020. But Trump now leads by 16 points in January 2024. That 25-point shift could be a reflection of people's sense that the president's age is affecting his capacity to govern. And there's very little that Joe Biden can do now to change that perception.
I have to say, as a quick sidebar, I don't know how people watch shows like that where it's just a host, like I'm hosting this show and I'm telling you what I think and it's coming out of my brain and I have some information in front of me. But a show like that where he's so obviously just reading, it's just a prepackaged thing that they could have just emailed to you and he's just reading it. But that aside for just a second, I mean, that just shows you the disconnect between cable news and what's happening online. But that aside for a second, he's telling you, this is not what I want, guys. Like he's late. It's almost like his brain is like coming online as he's talking. He's like, boy, they are really going after Trump unfairly, and that is lighting a fire under the thing. And people do realize that Joe Biden's not competent. And my God, people do think that Trump will be better on the border and all of these things, right? They don't want to have to do that on CNN, but sometimes the truth becomes so obvious that occasionally they have to show it a little bit. Otherwise, even the brain dead morons who are watching that thing might go, something is really wrong here. But there's even more bad evidence or bad news right now for Joe Biden. Frank Luntz, who's a pollster with the toupee, which to me, don't trust a pollster with the toupee, but all right, he's making a point here. Trump leads Biden in 5 of 6 swing states, including a 13-point margin in Nevada. In today's New York Times poll, the election is less than 6 months away. So every bit of evidence right now, as it stands, is pointing to Donald Trump. As I said to the guys as we were showing you the Fareed clip, my worry is that it's going to be the day before the election, and you're not going to be able to find a Joe Biden supporter anywhere outside of MSNBC and the machine people. The base hates him, right? The progressives absolutely hate him at this point. He's breaking down. We can all see it. There's going to be Trump rallies everywhere. Everyone online is going to want Trump. I bet you someone like Rogan will come around and eventually say he's going to vote. Even a Bill Maher who won't vote for Trump will basically show no enthusiasm to Biden. Like there's going to be this whole swell of people, and the whole thing will point to Trump winning, and then it could be the next day after the election and he won't have won. And that's very similar to what just happened in Brazil, by the way. So that's what I'm worried about a little bit. And it's why you can't get too overconfident. Like we must keep telling the truth and make sure that no, let's say, shenanigans take place. Check out this tweet from Colin Rugg, because Trump was up in Jersey over the weekend. Wildwood, this is Jersey Shore type stuff. Report, Wildwood officials estimate that between 80 and 100,000 people attended Trump's rally in New Jersey. The rally size competed with Franklin D. Roosevelt's 1932 speech in Seagirt, which reportedly drew over 100,000 people. Some people were spotted camping out overnight on the boardwalk, with some people lining up starting on Wednesday night for the Trump rally. The Trump campaign reportedly paid $52,000 to the city of Wildwood for the rally after they initially estimated 40,000 people would show up. We've got a couple images here. I mean, it's just absolutely massive. And look, these people are on vacation, right? You go to Jersey Shore to go on vacation, not necessarily to go to a political rally, even though a Trump rally is sort of, it's not even political, it's starting to become something else altogether. But that is showing that people are out there. Where is a Biden rally? But by the way, you can't get too overconfident, as I just said, because we didn't have any Biden rallies before last election, and he supposedly got 81 million votes, and Trump had tons of rallies and apparently lost the election. Here's Trump talking about the size of the crowd. This is Trump 101. Here you go.
There's so many people here. There's so many people here. Man, over 100,000 people. This was supposed to be, they thought they'd hit 40. So they more than doubled it, but you can't even see the end. I wish we didn't have the press here. I wish we moved them the hell back so they'd have, because they can't see in the back.
It's standard Trump stuff, right? Maybe a little bit loose with the numbers, hitting the press. He gives basically an extemporaneous stand-up routine while he's up there. And look, I don't want to get lost in crowd sizes because that doesn't necessarily reflect votes or outcomes of elections. But I'm talking about just sort of general energy right now. And it clearly is, compare what we just showed you there, those excited 100,000 people versus what Fareed Zakaria is telling you is happening to Biden right now. This is just kind of funny. Check out this 17-year-old who is not too thrilled with Joe Biden. This is at the Trump rally in Wildwood.
Rent, is it gas, is it food? He's just a sleepy as a 17-year-old. Okay, well, I can't afford gas anymore. He's a jet. I mean, come on.
So it's the gas.
Yeah, it's the gas.
All right.
Retard. We gotta get somebody serious back in office.
There you go.
Come on. Hey,
there you go. Close the border. Close the border.
Too many. Come on.
Close the border. High gas prices. These guys know. I appreciate it.
Come on, motherfucker. But the point is, people have had it. Regular people have had it. I don't think that kid particularly cares about politics, but he does care whether gas prices are going up, whether food prices are going up. And that's what most people care about. Most people are not hyper-political, and in a functioning system shouldn't be, because if politics is done the right way, politics just is a little box, and it's just one of the many boxes that you have to look at and pick things out of. It's not the thing that is encompassing everything. But now I want to give Trump a little advice that I've been trying to give for the last couple months, that, okay, you're the nominee, right? Like it seemingly is going to happen. I don't think they're throwing you in jail. They're going to do everything they can to keep pushing you there. But as even Fareed is admitting, that does fuel your fire. So in a weird way, you want some of that persecution, right? Some of that persecution and prosecution, I should say. But what you have to do right now is show people that you can be the wide tent president, that you can be the guy who takes in all of those disaffected liberals, all of the just average people who have just had it with what's going on with the border, or say didn't want their child's dick cut off. You have to be able to take all of those people in a wide tent and then create what I think could be the biggest landslide in American political history, right? If we're to believe that any of this is real. Aaron Rodgers, NFL quarterback who has become quite outspoken as it pertains to Trump, as it pertains to COVID vaccines and more. Here he is talking about Trump and the VP, that the swamp can't roll this guy over this time. You're going to have to staff better, which is exactly what I'm talking about.
And I love this country and I want to see it thrive. And I think there's a lot of people that don't give a shit about it. And if you look at some of the policies, how does it make any sense to have, open borders, to have non-secure elections, to have, the lobbying that we have in Washington, where, the pharmaceutical companies, the big ag, the big everything controls the policy of the policymakers. You have people in Congress and the Senate who, who go right from, their duties to these huge profitable jobs or speaking engagements, and pick a swath of the economy, whether it's banking or ag or military defense or whatever it is, and everybody's in everybody's pocket. And then you create these bills that have 40 different things in it, and we're spending billions of dollars to Ukraine and billions of dollars to Israel and billions of dollars to these college campuses. There's just a lot of issues right now that seem really un-American. And I think there's a lot of red-blooded Americans. People are like, how can Trump have such support? Well, people are fed up with it. And he speaks the rhetoric of like taking back, making America great again and stuff. My thing is he had 4 years to do it and didn't drain the swamp. And whether he just got scared because of what he learned when he was in there, I think is very plausible. But that's why I was interested when Bobby came to me and said, would you think about being my running mate? And I said, are you serious? I'm a f***ing football player.
Okay, so yes, apparently Robert F. Kennedy did ask him if he would consider being his running mate. He basically said no, and Kennedy has chosen Shanahan. That's fine. But the latter part is the most important part there. That Trump did get kind of rolled over, right? COVID, all of the stuff. Well, let's say, all the people that turned against him or he turned against and everything else. So what do you have to do this time? If this is really it, if America really feels like it's on the precipice of none of this working anymore, that we could be at the end of 250 years of the most incredible nation the world has ever seen, and this unbelievable experiment, and all of these people that came here and have largely made a better life for themselves, all these things. So what does Trump have to do right now? Well, you got to win the election. Okay, fine. But then you have to bring in the right people. And it's a little bit of chicken or the egg or that, because you're gonna have to bring in a VP that's gonna open this thing up, but you gotta bring in the right people. You gotta open it up and show people that have been deathly afraid of you or that had Trump derangement syndrome or anything else, that you will be everybody's president. And by the way, we have evidence for that. The evidence for that is the economy before COVID. The evidence for that is the Abraham Accords and the peaceful world that we had and all of those things. So there's evidence of it, and that's where Trump has to he has to be brave enough to make some brave moves. The move that I think will be the bravest and the wisest would be to bring in Tulsi as VP. And we did show you this clip. Hopefully you've seen it already. This is me asking Tulsi if she would be Trump's VP. If Trump wants to win this election, he needs to bring in what you represent. So if you get the call, you ready?
I'm ready. I'm ready because I know what is at stake. And if that call came, I would say yes. And I'd be honored to serve my country in that way and to be in a position first to help win this election, to stop the Democrat elite from destroying our country, and then actually begin the real work of getting our country back on track. And that starts with having people of courage in our government who care more about the country than they do about the political elite in Washington, and actually rooting out the deep rot that exists within our bureaucracies, the administrative state, the deep state in Washington.
Think how different this could all be. You've heard me say it before. Think how different everything could be right now had the Democrats chosen her as the VP instead of choosing Kamala Harris, right? There would be an awful lot of people right now that would be going, you know what, okay, maybe Biden is taking us the wrong way, but at least Tulsi's there. At least there's something that is centrist and decent, an old school Democrat, and that actually loves America and everything else and is not trying to upend America. But they chose their direction. Tulsi, of course, left the Democrat Party, and I think that that's the opportunity. The other thing that's great about Tulsi is, as a former Dem, someone who is loved by the progressives, who's now hated by the progressives, she's getting in the scrum as it comes to dealing with their media people, and dealing and going after the progressive politicians and everything else. Here she is calling out the ladies of The View right to their faces.
Yeah. No, look, some of you have accused me of being a traitor to my country, a Russian asset, a Trojan horse, or a useful idiot, I think was the term that you used. Which basically means that I'm naive or lack intelligence to know what's going on.
They use that.
I want to let your viewers know exactly who I am.
All right.
Set the record straight. I am a patriot. I love our country. I am a strong and intelligent woman of color, and I have dedicated almost my entire adult life to protecting the safety, security, and the freedom of all Americans in this country. It was the attacks on 9/11.
We're getting a little bit far ahead of ourselves, but Franklin Graham finds you refreshing. He doesn't find me refreshing. Richard Spencer, the white nationalist leader, says he could vote for you.
Joy, this is why
you're on Tucker Carlson at least 10 times. Why don't you go on Chris Wallace's show?
This is why I'm here, because you and other people continue to spread these innuendos that have nothing to do with who I am.
Well, Hillary Clinton started it, and then you shot back at her, boy. You called her the queen of warmongers.
You doubled down, unfortunately, you doubled down on the baseless accusations that she made that strikes at the core of who I am. I'm a soldier. Because of the attacks on 9/11, I enlisted in the military to go after and defeat and destroy the evil that visited us on that day. I've served now for over 16 years, deployed twice to the Middle East during the height of the war, where every single day I saw firsthand the terribly high human cost.
Man, there's so much there because first off, it's just great. It's just great to watch someone sit at that table with them and tell them the actual truth. And as Joy is trying to undermine her at every step of the way, she's talking about why she served this country after 9/11, why she loves this country, why she doesn't put up with the lies of the Democrats and the machine and everything else. It's beautiful. And of course, what sits with that is that she has left the Democrat Party. She could have still been a Dem if the Democrats did not go insane. If the left ever knew how to say, I think this is a little bit too far, then we wouldn't be in this situation. And I have no doubt that many of you watching this would still consider yourselves Democrats. And there's probably a world, if there was a time machine, where I could consider myself a Democrat. But that is not the world we live in right now. So that everything she represents right there is what now can be shifted over to the Republican Party if Donald Trump so chooses it. It's just so freaking obvious to me. It's off the charts. And you know what also goes right alongside that is that the Democrats do not know what to do with their psychotic base. They've been playing this identity politics game for years. They were calling everybody racist for years, saying that the country is evil for years, and now their base believes that bullshit, and they don't know what to do about that. So of course, there's been all these protests all over the place, these pro-Hamas, not pro-Palestine protests, pro-Hamas, pro-genocide protests all over the country. I want to show you this one, because one line that I've been saying a lot is first they come for the Saturday people, and then they come for the Sunday people. I mean, they're coming for the Jews now, but this is obviously a war on Christians, and it's a war on the West and everything else. They want to upend every Western value that we have. Well, here is the most stark example I can possibly show you of that they come for the Jews first and then the Christians second. This is from the University of San Francisco, where they have their own special encampment for the Hamas people. And check out this Islamist activist going after Father Paul J. Fitzgerald, who's the president of USF.
I find it horrifying that you put on scholarship students from Israel who have served in the IDF, who are trained to kill any Palestinian. I find it horrifying you bring them to this school where our social mission is to promote social justice, to promote liberation and the resistance of our oppressed peoples. I find it horrifying that those same students that you brought here have been spreading malicious lies about me, have been reporting me to the ADL, have been recording me. I find it horrifying that when I made my report, not a single person reached out. Not a single thing has happened, and it's been 7 months and they're still harassing me. That's on you. You brought them here. You gave them full ride. You gave them full ride to torment the Palestinian students here, not only in Palestine.
We want to have a respectful conversation.
This has been a respectful conversation. I just said my piece as a Palestinian. If you feel threatened by that, you check yourself, please. Check yourself.
So when can we meet? Can you acknowledge the genocide, though?
That is for scholars who have different expertise than I do.
Well, do you support a free Palestine?
Also, we never agreed to any community agreements. We were just here to discuss our demands. Shame.
The students united will never be defeated. The students united will never be defeated.
I mean, did you feel something deep while watching that? How evil and vile is that? That is a man of the cloth, the priest, who's there to have an open, respectful dialogue. She rants and raves and lies about everything. Israeli soldiers are taught to kill every Palestinian. Yes, if that was what they were taught, this war would be over on October 8th, okay? And then everything else she says. And it's like, are these the type of people we want in America? Well, I don't know what she's studying other than jihad, but like, is that the type of person that you might want to be your doctor or your dentist one day or to fly your plane? But that's what the left has brought to America, and it's here. And unfortunately, he sat through that struggle session. And if you think they're stopping with the Jews, I think that was pretty good evidence that they are not. Of course, Greta Thunberg, I'm not going to say what I think of her because I don't want to be demonetized, and I tweet it often. Here she is basically calling for jihad.
they should be everywhere. And once again, young people are leading the way, showing the world how we should react to this.
She's just so spiritually empty and everything else, chanting the mindless chanting, everyone dressed like Hamas soldiers. They are trying to destroy the West. And it's a perfect example of this match made in hell between the Islamists and the jihadists and the brain dead lefties and all of the insane people at our college campuses who we let teach them Marxism and leftism and everything else. And they're all just morphing together into one really, really ugly creature. But that's not how I want to end the show. This is the Rubin Report. We don't end with an evil, monstrous Marxist creature. We end with something positive. So I want to show you this. This is really actually just great. So Duke University had their commencement speech, had their commencement over the weekend, and they asked Jerry Seinfeld to show up. He got an honorary doctorate, and they asked him to, an honorary degree, and they asked him to show up and give the speech. And of course, it was about 30 kids with their kefias and their Palestine Hamas flags and everything. They created a little bit of a ruckus, and then they left. And then Jerry, I guess this was a bit off the cuff. Here you go, Jerry Seinfeld.
Privilege is a word that has taken quite a beating lately. Privilege today seems to be the worst thing you can have. I would like to take a moment to defend it. Again, a lot of you are thinking, I can't believe they invited this guy. Too late. I say, use your privilege. I grew up a Jewish boy from New York. That is a privilege if you want to be a comedian. Thanks. My point is we're embarrassed about things we should be proud of and proud of things we should be embarrassed about. When I was writing my TV series, thanks. What a crowd. Making work easier, this is the problem. So obsessed with getting to the answer, completing the project, producing a result, which are all valid things, but not where the richness of the human experience lies. The only two things you ever need to pay attention to in life are work and love. Things that are self-justified in the experience, and who cares about the result? Stop rushing to what you perceive as some valuable endpoint. Learn to enjoy the expenditure of energy that may or may not be on the correct path.
All right, guys, sorry, I made a mistake. We're showing you two Jerry Seinfeld clips. That was the one we were supposed to end on because that is truth, right? Work, love, self-evident things that will fix you and make you right. But I was throwing to this clip, which is the woke college kids walking out and Jerry owning them.
Jerry is also serving as our commencement speaker today. What's the big deal about our commencement speaker?
Booing that you're hearing there are the kids booing the kids that are the children, I should say, that are walking out. And I think because since I did throw to those clip backwards, and obviously what Jerry said there at the end was really the message that I want to leave you with. But what I can leave you with, since we did it the reverse way, is that, look, there were thousands of kids there graduating who were proud to have spent 4 years at Duke University, who probably learned some of the right things, who were happy to hear their commencement speaker and all of it. And it's a loud, annoying minority. And unfortunately, the Democrats took a loud, annoying minority and let them run the asylum. We are now at a place in America where we can choose to follow them down that path, or we can try to go another way and find another promised land. And that is the challenge for all of us. Guys, my full interview with Miami Mayor, if you want to talk about the promised land, well, there's a promised city. It's Miami, Florida, right here. My full interview with Miami Mayor Francis Suarez is up right now. We've got a new merch store. If you haven't seen some of our new stuff, DaveRubin.store. We've got a post-game show coming up for you in about 30 seconds at RubinReport.locals.com. And everyone else, we will see you tomorrow. Goodbye.